What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer. Taking a look at the results from YCS Minneapolis. I'm going to talk a little bit about the top 32 and kind of the breakdown of it, but more importantly, I want to go over and get to the deck profiles. I found quite a few, and then just look at some of the more interesting, tech choices. A lot of these decks kind of have the same core, and then it's kind of like whatever your flavor is on top, and that's always the fun part to look at afterwards. So no surprises here with Tearlament at 53%, which it takes up quite a bigger chunk than Spright here, which isn't too much of a surprise considering that all the new Spright cards that come out seem to also help Tearlament because they do have the I think it's Merly, which is the level 2 Spright. And this card just came out. Spright Sprint lets you Foolish Burial level 2, which is good for Spright, obviously, but man, it just works really well with Tears as well. Be interesting to see, like, the danger stuff seems to be falling out of favor. Like, the most dominant version of this, seemingly, for now, was a small Spright package in Tearlament. Very small package, but obviously, that package can do so much. It just gives you so much advantage, and it's just so easily smashable. Nothing really locks you out. I think the only thing that does is Gigantic. Flew Under Rees, this one actually made it to the finals, sneak peek, although I'm sure you guys probably already know. This one Flew Under Rees deck did make it to the finals. That doesn't surprise me, because if they open up D-Shifter, they pretty much just win. That's just like how good the deck is. So like if a good enough number of people take Flew Under Rees, to a tournament, there's going to be some that make the top cut just because it's really just okay, what 5 cards did you draw? Did you draw the cards that help you win the duel? Then you win. It's just kind of funny. But D-Shifter, of course, is very good against Tier. That's also probably a big reason, as it's just like a decent matchup against it. One Dragon Link, so this was cool. I would love to see the deck profile for this. I don't think I have it. The Bestial monsters probably help Dragon Link more than anybody else, so no one really knew. All these cards really just came out. So pretty impressive for a lot of people to be able to fit these in their deck and use them effectively. It's not easy to do. Exo Sister is also just kind of like D-Shifter Turbo, you know what I mean? And then Thunder Dragon. That is pretty wild. Who knows how that works? Maybe we'll get a little bit more information as time goes on here. Going on into top 16, the tier dropped about halfway there, and Spright kind of around the same number. Dragon Link making it to top 16. I think this deck could actually have more top cut representation if more people played it. It's just by far the most complicated meta deck. Tier, okay, definitely there's very optimal ways to play it. I'm not saying it's an easy deck to pilot, but man, it's the small things in Dragon Link that make all the difference. And of course there's a ton of extenders, and that's kind of the cool thing about it. Access to some very powerful boss monsters, the whole 9 yards. But yeah, you gotta be, if you don't play it very well, the deck just doesn't do well with resources. But if you play your hands right, and there's so many different ways to go about it, it's really, really good. And obviously, making a top 16 here. Flew Under Rees, I think, only lost to 1 going out of the top 32. And this was the breakdown for it, and I believe this individual, Septo, cool for them doing that. This was the top, 8. Flew Under Rees, Spright, and then Tearlament. So only, I don't know if I talked about this yet, but only one Spright Runick. That was a very popular build, and it seemed like that was kind of going to be the front-facing Spright competitive deck. And didn't really show up as much as I personally thought it would. Although, the more I think about it, it does actually have a pretty bad matchup against Tier because, one of the main quick play spells is destroying, one of your opponent's special summon monsters, which, of course, is just very, very bad against Tiers. Although I would also think that, banishing, the cards off the top of their deck is also, really bad for them. If they're already milling, getting close to, a deck out maybe, I think it'd be kind of easy. So we'll have to see, if that deck stays around, if people still find it viable. Because in my mind, I think it's very, very good. Going on into the top 4, so pretty well diverse top 4. Not that it really matters at this point. It's almost like a crapshoot. But very funny that Flew Under Rees made it this far. I mean, they must have drawn really well. And I believe the finals was just between Tier and, Flew Under Rees. All right, so that was the tournament. The one thing I want to say, about this all is really like the most important thing in my opinion, and that is that the Ishizu cards are not even out, or Ishizu, I think that's how you say it. So if this is, taking up 53% of the meta right now, I mean, those cards are obviously just buku bonkers. Then you're going to play a bunch of copies of those, and then it lets you play Orange Light, which helps you play during your opponents even more, even though that was never even an issue. It's going to be absolutely wild. A lot of people are not excited about this format. It's been a long time, I think, since Tier 0 has kind of made its way to the TCG, and I guess it's just bound to happen every once in a while. I don't know if I'm going to go that extreme yet, although, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say that when these cards are coming out, they're just absolutely so, like, game warping that will all probably be banned. Okay. It's so funny that they banned Chaos Ruler, and they're, like, allowing some of the craziest mill cards ever to be released. But, let's go ahead and go over to, the top winning deck list here. Like I said, no dangers. A very small Spright package, so that's what the replacement was, which I kind of agree because, Smashers really is a good out to a lot of things. Mystic Mine, which really didn't see a lot of play in this tournament, interestingly enough. Super Poly in the main deck. Again, like, this is pretty normal, although, having the Anglers, that was kind of surprising to me, not going to lie. I did not think that was going to be an option in tiers because it brings out Beavers, which there must be some pretty wild stuff. Actually, like, when you go first as tier, what I've noticed is that you really don't want to, like, fusion too much. You want to start during your opponent's turn. So I guess it makes sense to, go into Gigantic, being able to dump that, go into the 2 Beaver. Gigantic can bring out the, the level 2. And then you can, link those off for Elf, which gives you just a ton of advantage, obviously. So that makes kind of a lot of sense. Having the Bestial monsters in the side deck, kind of a weird thing to see, but, those are just bodies and Eruption. Abyss Dweller, obviously, wanting to be ready for the mirror match. Pretty cool list, pretty interesting. Oh, and, of course, the new Kshatriya Law Fenrir came out, which is like a really expensive card, I've heard. I think it's like 50, 70 bucks, something wild like that. But it's just a free body. Everyone's like, it's a worse Pankratops or it's not as good. But, man, I think this card's insane. It searches extra copies of itself. It's a good form of interruption, and it's just free. It's just a free body. And it banishes a face-up, like any face-up card. There's so much utility. Seeing Beat Cop is actually kind of interesting. That was a cool tech choice that I saw too. But yeah, the extra deck is pretty, this is what you're going to get from tier. Going on into the Fluendaries list, probably not too much to go over here. Although main decking Evenly Match is obviously pretty wild. I saw that card be pretty popular over the games that I saw. So I haven't seen the whole tournament, but I saw a good, list of it. A lot of Nadir Servant targets. That's pretty awesome. Being able to send Nova, which can bring out Makaba, Nadir Servant. I don't know what Shen is doing necessarily in there. Kind of surprising not to see Cherries maybe, but, I guess just playing in to this. I was going to say, are they even like playing Dogmatica? Like that might be an explanation, but no. This might be a blind going second. So Mystic Mine. Okay. I said Mystic Mine wasn't in top cut. The card's very good. So blind second Flu is pretty darn crazy. This deck can play under Mystic Mine very, very easily. One of the best decks, when it comes to that. And of course, there's like that little mini Zeus package in case your bodies just stay on the board. It's pretty good. So, this is Fluendaries, but cool to see a very unique list. Pretty much the unique list starts with these like 5 cards, and that's about it. But obviously, it was a big enough change, to get this person to second place. This is the Runick, so I think, man, I really feel like this is just going to get more and more popular, especially for when these Ishizu cards come out. Like, you can probably mill out your opponent more than likely. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the tech cards that I wanted to go over specifically. I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but Hyperia, when it's summoned, you get to draw one. So, Gigantic can bring it out. And then during your opponent's turn, you can also bring it out. It's like very good card to have in your graveyard. Very pesky. Because it's constantly just going to be summoning itself. You know what I mean? Which is going to give you a tremendous amount of advantage. And that's really all this deck needs. I mean, this deck is advantage the deck, if there really was such a thing. Maybe the goal is really to deck out your opponent. Main decking Lava Golem, so a lot of main decking super powerful going second cards. I guess the idea is, like, if you are going first, like, your end boards are probably going to be pretty crazy anyways. Or maybe this person allowed, their opponent to go second or to go first. I could see that happening because that kind of works with the, these cards here. But either way, one of the main deck cards, Wind Up Kitten, this is pretty crazy. You can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, return it to the hand. So having that in the main deck definitely surprised me. Onto the side deck, one thing that did catch my eye was Thunder King Ryo. The only thing is I don't know how they get to it. There's one copy. I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. Also, the new trap card that came out, I forgot to grab a picture of this one, but it sets all of your opponent's monsters. Like, that was pretty crazy. I can imagine actually how that's pretty good. Epidemic Virus. No surprises there, although I suppose the target, I guess, would just be Gigantic. Because I was going to say, what are you going to tribute? And then having Sphere Mode too, like, that's definitely the advantage, and very good reason probably why they got this far, into everything. This was a top 8 Runick Bestial deck. So this is more like pure, but there's a few cards you can see, Fenrir obviously here. Pretty wild to see all of these. I don't really know what, like, super big function other than link summoning the Bestial players have. I guess you're just, like, really ready for the Tearlament matchup. I saw Pick Knight early in the extra. This is kind of a card that came out not too long ago. Yeah, 2022. But when a monster this card points to activates its effect, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls. It changes attack to 0. Also negate its effects. So I guess kind of a form of interruption. I just haven't seen that very often. I thought that was pretty cool. This card also just came out. Probably a good starter. A good follow-up play, off of Jet. A lot of, like, decks play such a small Runick package. But if you're actually playing Spright, like the whole deck, this would be a really good second choice, other than maybe Smashers to grab. So target one monster on the field or in either graveyard. You get to attach to a rank 2, take control of it, or special summon a monster from the graveyard. Like, that is obviously a pretty good card. Maybe not something you'd want to see in your opening going second, but it seemed like a pretty cool choice. Another thing I saw was Oni Bimaru Soul Sweeper. Just something that I wasn't super familiar with. I thought that was kind of cool. Basically, you can attach material from this card, target a monster your opponent controls, banish it into your end phase. It's just like they're going for a lot of utility and trying to get ready for pretty much any matchup, which I would guess that they, considering how far they got to the tournament, that was probably a good idea. And then last is a top 16 pure Spright. Again, seeing the same Bestial package. Very good against Tears. In the side deck, Dimension Shifter, it's a pretty good card for pure, especially. Seeing Swap Frog, yeah, I mean, this is pretty crazy to see this, the way that it is. No, and side decking and extra Smashers in, and it's just hand traps. So it's just kind of stalling your opponent out in a sense, or just being as disruptive as possible in as many different means as like possible, through hand traps, through Smashers on board. Probably can have some interruption, through Elf, with hopefully through Toad, and then finishing the game off with Cat Shark, trying to get the Gigantic on the field that has link material under it, so its attack is already at like 3,200, and then it doubles to 6,000 to go for game. Maybe like a little of like an underwhelming looking deck, but I can see that all you need to do is just give it one turn before the advantage gets a little too crazy for your opponent. And I think this is a pretty cool list. That was like kind of the only one from this one that I kind of noticed. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about YCS Minneapolis. Do you guys like the results? Kind of cool not to see Mystic Mine. I guess that's kind of like maybe the best note to talk about from this video. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Other than that, that's going to do it for today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.